Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nom, and before I go any further, I need to say, if you haven't watched my previous video titled How I End Up in a Wheelchair slash dash or slash, I think it's slash, and slash my diagnosis, you need to go and watch that first before watching this one, because I will be referring to it a lot. So if you haven't seen it, some of what I say here just might be confusing to you. Mental health is a very big passion of mine. It's one of the topics that is so dear to my heart. It means a lot to me, and I am very passionate about speaking on it and doing my part to be able to help where possible. So I have to give you a disclaimer, which is that the only way that I choose to share my story in whatever I speak on, I choose to always be honest. I don't want to ever come on here and tell you guys half truths, because I don't think that's helpful to anybody, and it certainly wouldn't be helpful to me. So I will always be honest, which is what I intend to do today. Now, I do understand that some of what I'm going to speak on, or what I'm going to disclose, might be distressing to some people. It may be upsetting, or it might help others to realize their own personal struggles. Should that be the case, I will link down below in the description box companies or people that you can go to that would be able to help you, and I do encourage you that you do go for the help. But remember, in the previous video, I did share the story of how I walked on a broken leg for 5 years with no medical intervention, with nothing, just me, myself, and I. So as you can imagine, that was difficult. That was a very, very difficult situation. I think more so being a child, because I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't understand why that was happening to me. Of course, I knew something was going on with my leg, but being a child, I didn't really know anything about mental health. But looking back now and knowing all that I know now, I can definitely say that I struggled with my mental health from a very young age, which I know is probably really weird or strange to hear, but unfortunately it's true. Being a child does not mean that you're immune to some of the things that some people may think you are immune to. With everything that I was going through physically, I remember being just sad. And I'm not talking about having sad moments. I remember just being so sad all the time. I was always so sad. I was always just watching over my family, watching over people go on with their lives, and I just felt wrong. And this is scary, because if I look back, I was only about 3-4 years old with these feelings. I felt so sad, like I just could not explain what was going on. I was struggling to understand what was going on, with me physically. Why was I in so much pain? Why was no one paying attention to me? Why was it not being caught? Why was no one understanding or caring that I was in so much pain? I remember when we would go to my grandparents' house, which was about 4 or 5 years old at this time, and I've got a very big family, so there would be a lot of my cousins, and we would all be there together. And I remember there was this tree facing the kitchen, and day after day, hours after hours, I would just sit under this tree and I would watch all my cousins play. I would watch everybody run around, and I would just think to myself, I wish I could join them. I really want to run around with them, but I couldn't because I was in so much pain. And I remember looking at them with so much envy, and I was just like, oh, they look like they're having so much fun, but I just couldn't get involved. And that sort of put me into this little shell. I was, I was so lonely, and I was so alone, and it was just such a hard time, because it seemed like I couldn't really relate to any of my family. I couldn't form relationships with them, because I didn't feel like anybody could really understand me, or anybody was even trying to understand me. So when I had that operation on my leg when I was 7 and had that horrible infection, that was really tough as well. But more so, I remember laying in my bed and having the thought of, I wonder if this will kill me. I wonder if this infection will kill me. And you know what? The sad part is, it wasn't like, I was scared of that thought. It was almost like a welcome thought. It was almost like I was like, I kind of hope it does, because I really struggled so much with feeling like I was a burden on my family. Because I was the only person who seemed to have, an issue physically. Everybody else was fine. And I really struggled. I felt like I was just kind of put in their hands, and they were all just like, whoa, what do we do with her? And it was a hard time for everybody, but I really struggled with that, and I wanted so badly to take that away from them. Like, it's crazy because I just wanted to save them. I wanted to almost remove myself from the situation, because I thought if I wasn't there, if they didn't have to deal with all what they're dealing with me right now, they would be better off. It was hard because I could see the frustration in my family's faces. I could see them struggling with it. But because I was a child, I wasn't really able to differentiate between them being frustrated at the situation and them being frustrated at me. So I sort of just, I thought that the frustration was directed at me. And I honestly thought, they thought they would be better off without me, because it as a child, it's you just take what you see, you take what you're given. You don't have the ability to say, okay, this is happening maybe because of this, maybe these people are acting like this because of this. So because I wasn't able to reason like that, I just saw these people as being frustrated and being angry and being upset, and I just thought it was because of me that I was causing that, not my situation per se, but me personally, that I was the problem. Feelings that I had as a child just kept getting worse. The older I got, the worse that they kept getting. And because, there were still other physical struggles that kept coming along the way, I was really struggling with quieting down the noise in my head. And I became really closed off. I just kept to myself, and because, like I said, I have struggled so much with feeling like this burden on my family. I decided that whatever was happening, whatever I was feeling, I had to keep to myself. I couldn't dare tell anybody, because, like I said, I wanted to protect my family, which at the time it felt like I needed to protect them from me, which is crazy because I was the child in the situation. I needed to be protected, but here I was finding myself trying to protect everybody else about me. When I was about 12 or 13, I started experiencing verbal abuse from somebody who was really close. When it started, and even when it continued, I didn't tell anybody. I just kept it to myself, because I was like, again, I didn't want to bring any more burden, any more issues, onto my family. And honestly, I didn't think anybody would believe me. I was called every name under the sun. I was called horrible things that I can't honestly repeat, because if I did, YouTube would be like, black. So I'm not gonna repeat them, but I can tell you, if they were horrible things that I would cry on myself to say, because I just could not believe that I was hearing what I was hearing, and I was told that my family would be better off without me. And that last one, that one was, I think, the one that really hurt the most. That one really hit home, because for so many years I'd been going through the struggle of thinking that my family deserved better than me, that my family didn't deserve what I was putting them through. And I'd wondered, if I wasn't born, would they have been better off without me? So it was so hard actually hearing this from an adult, hearing this from somebody who obviously knew better, somebody who I was supposed to trust, who was supposed to protect me. And if they can come out and say this, then surely it must mean that it's true. I remember thinking, surely someone is meant to look out for me. Surely someone is meant to protect me. Why is all this happening? Why is this person doing this to me? Who do I go to for help? Who do I trust? What was I left with? What hope was there in the world? What could I possibly do to get myself out of this situation? I felt so hopeless. When I was about 14, 15, I tried to take my own life. Now, I know that this is going to be hard for people to listen to, or especially my family to hear, but it is something that I'm determined to speak about. I need to speak about it, because I want that if there is somebody watching this who may be feeling the way that I was feeling and thinks they've gone too far to come back, I need them to know that that's not the case. Because of the physical pain that I was in, I was on some really strong painkillers. So I remember, it's a day that I will never be able to forget. I remember the day I was in my room sitting on my bed, and I was just, I was tired. I was I was honestly physically drained. I was mentally drained. I didn't have it in me anymore. I had, as far as I was concerned, I had nothing going for me. I had nothing to live for. There was nothing on this earth left. There was nobody, who would care if I was here or if I wasn't. So I emptied out the packets of the painkillers into my hands, and there were a lot of them. And I took them, I drank the water, and I laid back on my pillow, and I just cried and I cried. And it was the realization that I can't believe this is where it's come to, because nobody goes through life wanting to take their own lives. Believe me, nobody does. But you can go so so deep and so far where you feel like you have no choice. And this is where I was, and I just laid on my bed and I just cried and I just cried. And I remember I just started to feel weak and I just started fading away. And in my head I thought that was me going, and that was it. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night. I looked at the time and it was like 3 a.m, and I was so sick. I was just like, my body just felt heavy, my head felt heavy, my head was pounding, my eyes were were sensitive to the light. I felt sick, like I needed to throw up. So I went to the bathroom and I just threw up. It felt like I was sitting on the floor in that toilet for hours. And afterwards, I remember I went back to my room and I just cried. And I just thought to myself, damn, Norm, you can't even do this right. You couldn't even get this right. This was your one opportunity to free everybody, and you couldn't even do that right. And that was so heartbreaking. And for days on, I was just so sick. I just felt so weak. But I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my family. I hid myself because I didn't want anybody to notice that anything was wrong. And that was a very, very hard thing to go through, and especially to go through it alone. That was really tough. After that failed attempt, I became really obsessed with trying to find a way that would work, trying to find the perfect way. I remember going to school and all the kids would be talking about what they wanted to be when they grow up, and talking about their dreams and the things that they were going to do at the weekend. And I would just sit there, and all I could think about was just ending my life. All I could plan for was the day that I would finally succeed in ending my life. I couldn't dream. I couldn't afford to have dreams. I didn't, I couldn't allow myself to even take a second to think about the future, because as far as I was concerned, I didn't have a future. I was born into a Christian family, more specifically Seventh-day Adventist Christians. I loved being in church, and I remember being young, being in church was the only time, it seemed like to be the only time when my mind was just switched off, where everything in my head just wasn't so loud. When I was 10 years old, I made a decision for myself that I was going to get baptized. They had this system where all the people that were getting baptized, you got to pick guardians. Guys, English is not my first language. Wow, guardians. So if you needed anything, you could call them, and spiritual leadership sort of thing, and anything really. So I remember because I was so young and I didn't really because I was struggling with so much, I didn't really connect myself with people. But I remember going through the names of the people in the church, and I remember landing on this lady, and I was like, she's nice, I think she's nice. Yeah, I'm gonna choose her. So I picked her. 2013, everything was just getting, every year things were just getting harder and harder, and I was struggling with my faith. I was struggling because I just wasn't understanding why God wasn't helping me. It seemed like He had abandoned me, everybody had abandoned me, and I was just stuck in this world all by myself. So I really struggled with that. So I decided that I was no longer going to go to church. And unfortunately also, this person had actually told me that God was punishing me, that everything that I was going through physically was punishing me from God because I was such a bad person. And because I was so young and my mind was already so damaged, I I believed everything I was told. I felt like I was to blame for everything, you know. Why wasn't I strong enough to fight this person off? Why wasn't I strong enough to not break my leg? Why, you know, I just blamed myself for everything that had ever gone wrong in my life or in my family's life. The lady I had chosen at 10 years old, and I think before then we'd never really had any serious conversations, you know. It was just, you know, the regular talks of life. Hi, how are you? Good, yeah, thanks, bye. Happy Sabbath. But yeah, I remember that day she called me and she was like, yeah, okay, let's go for lunch. And I was just like, lunch? I mean, I like food, so I'm there. So I went for lunch, and I remember she was just, you know, she just looked at me, and she's just looking at me, and she's like, so what's going on, Nom? Why have you left church? What's going on? You know, is everything okay? Are you okay? And that was so foreign to me, because I don't think I'd ever had anybody really look at me and really, you know, it made me feel like they really cared. So I broke down and I just cried, you know, and I just bubbled, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. And I just found myself just talking, a verbal diarrhea, and I was just telling her basically what was happening. But she looked so shocked. She was so shocked because what I was saying didn't really match up with the way that I was behaving, or the way that it seemed that I was living, because I was so ashamed of the way that I was feeling. I was so ashamed of everything that I'd gone through. So I made the decision that I was going to do everything, and I mean everything that I can, to hide it. I was going to make my life as perfect as possible. I was going to, you know, do what was expected to me. I was going to get a job. I was going to, you know, I was going to do, you know, I was going to enter into adulthood and, you know, and do everything that was expected to me, so nobody would ever stop and question me. I remember I had this mirror near my bedroom door, and I would literally just sit in front of that mirror, and I would practice my smile. I would force myself, and I would say to myself, okay, you're leaving now. This sad face, this won't work. People can't find out. People cannot know what you're truly feeling. And I would practice my smile over and over again, and then I would leave. The minute I left that room, it was like showtime. She then went home and spoke to her husband, and I got a phone call from them, and they asked me to come to their house, and I again told him basically what I told her, and he was even more shocked as well, which was just like, what? I remember being so scared when I got home, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I've done this. How dare I, you know, bring my problems onto these people? What have I done? That's it now. They're going to hate me as well. They just kept calling me. They kept calling me, and I just kept going. Yeah, and they just kept cooking for me. Guys, I love food. Where there is food, there I'm found. It's a problem. Every time I was there, I was just continuously just breaking down, just always crying, and they would just hold me, and I mean physically just hold me, and they would just, you know, and they'll tell me that everything was going to be okay, and they would pray for me. And it was actually really tough for me, because I remember I would sit in their sitting room. Oh, stop. I remember I would sit in their sitting room, and I would think to myself, are these people crazy? Do they not realize that I'm broken? Do they not realize that there's no hope for me? What are they trying to do here? And they became like my adopted family. And I think for the first time in my life, I felt loved. I didn't understand the concept of love, and more so of anybody loving me, because I felt unlovable. I felt like I was just this empty shell that had nothing to offer anybody, that nobody could really love. After a while, they set me down, and they said they thought that it was possible that I was struggling with some form of depression. And I was just like, depression? What? Me? First time ever thinking, wait, so I'm not just wired wrong. I wasn't just born wrong. There is a reason why I am the way I am. There's a reason why I'm feeling the way I am. So they suggested that I get some help. But honestly, I wasn't interested because I believed that I was too far gone. I didn't think that there was anybody out there who would be able to help me. Near that time, I had a friend. At the time, she was a really good friend to me, actually. But I struggled with that as well because I really struggled with relationships. I found myself in a situation where I struggled to trust people. I couldn't trust anybody. Because the way that I looked at it was, if someone, who was supposed to love me, who was supposed to protect me, could hurt me the way that they had done, what could people do out there? People who don't owe me anything, people who are not my family, how much more would they be able to hurt me? So I shut myself off from people. Shockingly to me, I found myself opening up to her, and I told her some of what I was struggling with, and some of the things that had happened. She suggested that I get some help, and she had given me information about therapy services and gave me a number that I could call and refer myself. I mean, I took the number just so I wouldn't make her feel bad, but honestly, I had no intentions of calling them. Fast forward to 2015. So our church has like conference after conference with like big leaders basically, and so every year in June they put on I would describe it as a conference for a week, where a lot of churches come together and they just worship together for a week. Previous that, my mom would go with the family and I wouldn't go because I just really wasn't interested. But in 2015, her husband had to be away, so he couldn't take her. So I was sort of in the situation where I had to take her, because if I didn't take her, she wouldn't go. It wasn't really something I was thrilled about. I wasn't excited. As a matter of fact, I was actually angry and I was really annoyed because I was like, well, I don't really want to be there, but I didn't have a choice. I had to take her and my brothers. So we're there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now on the Wednesday, I wake up and I was fed up. I was honestly just fed up. And I made up my mind that when I got home, I was just going to end it all because I just could not carry on living the way that I was living. On the Wednesday afternoon, I got in my car and I went for a drive. I drove out of the holiday park that we were in and just kept driving, and there were just woodlands, and I just kept driving, and then I pulled over and I just broke down and I just cried and I cried. And I remember, I hadn't prayed for a very long time, and I remember opening my mouth and I was just like, God, please, if you want me alive, if I mean anything to you, I need you to help me. I need you to do something for me. I need a reason to live because, at the moment, I don't have anything. On the Thursday, I had to drive back home, which is 2 hours away because I had work on the Friday. It was the only day that I couldn't get off. So I came back home Thursday evening, went to work on Friday, and then I drove back to the holiday park. And I was a little bit late, so when I came back, the service had already started. So I just rolled up, and I saw one of my friends, so I just pulled up next to him. And I was just there, and I was just like, yeah, this service can just end now so I can go and eat and go to sleep. The service is going on, and the preacher stands up to preach. And, wow, I can only explain it as a God moment. Like, if you don't believe, I know it's gonna be hard for you to understand, but there are moments that can happen in life and you're like, yeah, that was God. So I sat in that service and the preacher was preaching, and suddenly the room just went quiet, and I mean, it was just silent, and I felt like I was the only person in the room, and I honestly felt God speak to me. It was like he was in my presence and he was just speaking to me, and I heard him say to me, I need you to just let me in, just let me try and help you. And in that moment, I just broke down. Like, I mean, I was always that person crying, like in every service, anyway. Like, it got to a point where everybody was used to Nom crying. You're just like, oh, Nom's crying. It's fine, she's always crying, no problem. But I this time I broke down like I'd never broken down before. My whole body just literally felt like it was just falling to the floor. And my poor friend who was sitting next to me was just there, just like, there, friend, there. And up until this day, I don't think he will never really truly know what he was really involved in, because I was I was weak. Like, I genuinely could not hold myself up, and I truly believe that he was, even though he was just comforting me, he was actually physically holding me up, because if he wasn't there, I'm pretty sure I would have fallen to the floor. I really wish I could explain it better, but I really can't. All I can say is I had an experience with God. I woke up the next day, and it was Saturday, and I remember waking up, and I thought something is off. Something isn't right with me. Something is wrong. Because for as far as I could remember, every time I woke up, the first thought that came into my mind was me taking my own life. I was still filled with so much sadness, and I still felt so broken. But this time, the thought of taking my own life somehow seemed foreign to me. Like, it just wasn't there, which was so strange for me, because I don't remember a time where that thought wasn't there. I went through Saturday just so strange, and just thinking, what is going on? What has happened? Now I remembered, God has taken away my obsession of taking my own life, because the truth of the matter is that it had became a part of me. It become an obsession. It was no longer, it was now out of my control. I couldn't control my thought of it. I couldn't push it out of my mind. I couldn't look past it. I couldn't go around it. There was nowhere. It was just that thought, and that thought alone. I was so confused, because I didn't know what to do with myself. Yes, I was no longer suicidal, which was a great thing, because I think that was the thing that I was most in danger of. That was the thing that was crippling my life. But I was still suffering with depression. I was still very troubled. I was still very broken. Beginning of 2017, I remember thinking to myself, maybe there is something that can be done. I let that thought just, linger for just a second. And then I remembered the number that I had in my phone. And it took me some days, I was going back and forth. And then I decided, you know what, what's the worst that could happen? I'm already in a bad place, So I called the therapy service, and I referred myself. That was a difficult thing. That was such a hard thing. And I remember thinking, well, what do I have to lose at this point, and because I knew that if I carried on living the way that I was doing, the way that I was living, it was only a matter of time before the suicidal thoughts came back, and I knew that if they came back, I wouldn't be able to stop myself. So after I referred myself and went through the procedures, the assessments, and this and that, I remember getting a phone call of them saying, we have found a space for you to begin your therapy. That was so scary. That was such a scary thing to hear. So I was then given the time, the date, and the location. So I went. It took a couple of different therapists and different methods to find one that would work for me. When they finally did, I was put with this lady who was so lovely, and they gave me a year worth, like, therapy for a whole entire year. And I remember thinking, damn, these people must really think I got some problems. Like, a whole year? That's a long time. The first few sessions were tough, because I was just there, and I was just like, just twiddling my thumbs. And I remember after the first few sessions, I went home, and I said to myself, no, if you're going to do this, you need to give it your best shot. You have nothing to lose. Because I was like, if this fails, then I can truly say I've tried everything. I've tried everything that I could. Everything that was in my power, I've tried it, and it failed. So I decided that I was going to really apply myself into this, and I was going to do my very best to open up, because previously I was scared of therapy. I really was, because I was like, how can somebody I don't know be telling me about myself? No. But then starting it, I realized that it didn't actually really work the way that I initially thought. It was at that point that I realized that there was actually more going on than I initially thought. and realizing that actually all that I had been through as a child was still affecting me. It wasn't a case that it happened and it just stayed there. It wasn't spoken about, there wasn't understanding on my part of what was happening or why it was happening. So all these things, I just kept carrying things, and the Lord just kept getting heavier and heavier. And then realizing that actually what was now happening with the verbal abuse was just the icing on top of a very long, big and messy cake. And that was hard to realize, that was hard to come to terms with. But it was what I needed, because for me to work through those issues, I had to be aware of those issues. And when I was aware of them, I was in a better position to be able to actually work on them. The realization that actually I have a reason to be, to feel the way that I feel, because what I've gone through, what I am still going through, is actually a big thing, and it's something that needed to be addressed. And because it wasn't addressed, that's why it kept affecting me for so long. So being in the space where it could be addressed, and I could really, speak and say everything that I'd been harboring. And I said everything. Like, I let her have it. Like, up to this day, I'm like, damn, that woman did not know what she was going in for. But it was even the first time that I had spoken about trying to take my life. So for all those years, I said nothing. I didn't tell anybody. I just kept that in myself. I kept that shame in myself. I kept that struggle in myself, which was really hard to do. But finally, in therapy, I was able to just let it all out and lay it all on the table. And when I laid it all on the table and I was able to see it for myself, I was able to find solutions within myself. And it was just, it was hard to explain, but it just felt like, the Lord was just getting lighter and lighter through this therapy. And it's like for the first time ever, I began to see, the light in my world that had been so dark for so long. I just started seeing cracks of light coming through. And I felt like I was finding myself for the first time. I was seeing myself for the first time. And though going through the process of therapy in the beginning was one of the hardest things I've ever done, it was something, it was the best thing that I could have done for myself. I remember being home and looking at myself in the mirror, which is something I hated to do. I'd only look in the mirror if I was practicing my smile or, ready to go on show. But this time I was looking at myself, and I didn't hate my reflection. I didn't hate the person looking back at me. And guys, I was shook. I was shook because I was like, wait, pause. Is this me? Let me just come closer so you can see. For a person who spends all their time sitting, I did not know how to sit. Guys, I was like, I was like, moving in a wheelchair like this. I had never seen myself as beautiful, but suddenly I was looking at myself and I was like, you're not half bad, June 2018 comes and the year is over. My therapy comes to an end. And honestly, I was ready to go. I was ready to go because I was just like, I just could not believe that this, I could be this person. I could be free. I just could not believe that I could laugh and really feel joy. I just couldn't believe that I had come through it. I just could not believe that, I was free. I was free from my past. I was free from all the hurt. I was free from everything, and suddenly I had a future. Like that thought alone was just too much for me to bear, but in a good way. It was just so overwhelming, but it brought me so much joy. I started, thinking about all the things that I could accomplish, the things that I could do. Fast forward to 2020, and I and I could easily stop this video right here and come back, but I'm not going to, because this is real. This is so real. And 2020, and I have had the best 2 years of my life. I'm still in so much disbelief, you know. I still have moments where I sit and I'm just like, I can't believe this is me. I can't believe that I made it. For the past 2 years, I have been living depression free. I'm saying it, and it sounds crazy even saying it, because for so long I lived in this dark hole, and suddenly I'm alive. I breathe and I can feel the air, you know, the breath going through my body. I can feel my heart beat and I feel alive. I feel so free. For the first time in my life, my mind is whole, and I don't think I've ever experienced my mind being whole. Physically, it hasn't been great for me, but because my mind is so strong, because my mind is so healthy, I wake up every day, and even on the days when my leg is like, no girl, we're not doing this today, I can still smile. I smile and I just say, thank you, God, for my life. And I am so happy to be alive, and I am excited for my future. I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited for what's currently happening. And I'm just so grateful. Beyond anything, I'm just so grateful and so happy to be alive and to be the person that I am. It just seems so unreal, because I remember being a teen, and I would lay in my bed and I'd cry myself to sleep, and I would say to myself, one day I'm gonna get to share my story. And honestly, I didn't believe it, but I would just say that to comfort myself. And and here I am today. Here I am. I lived to tell the story, and I am in the position where I am actually sharing my story in hopes that it will help somebody, in hopes that it will give somebody hope, and it will encourage somebody, because heck, I went through hell and I lived to tell this story, and if I can do it, so can you. It's possible. I'm now in a place where I am so strong, and I feel my strength. I see my strength on a daily basis. I believe in myself. I know that I can do anything that I put my mind to. With God on my side, I'm gonna turn through this whole universe and do what I set out to do. And you know, I love myself. Like, I really truly love on myself. If nobody in this whole entire world ever tells me that I'm great, that's okay, because I know that I'm great. Every single day I wake up and I'm like, girl, you're just fabulous. You're fabulous, and can nobody, and I mean nobody, tell me different. You can't tell me nothing about me. You can't tell me nothing, because I went through hell and I live to tell the story. So you can't tell me nothing. I've learned so much along the way, so many little nuggets that I know will be able to help somebody. And I can't wait to carry on this journey with you guys and share with you some more. Thank you so much for lending me your ears and listening to my very long story. But I do sincerely hope that if you're watching this and you are struggling, that you would go and get some help, because you deserve it. Not for anybody else, but for you. I had to get to a point where I was like, you know what? It's not for anybody else. It's for me, that I deserve to be free. I deserve to live the life that I want. And I am in a place that I never thought I could be. And you can be too. And I just need you to go out there and get some help. If you have any questions on anything that I've said, or you want to hear more of anything that I've mentioned today, leave me a comment, send me an email, or DM me, and I will do my best to answer it as I go on. Really appreciate it if you would share it. Share it with your friends, share with your family, share with your neighbors, share with your cat, share with everybody, because I truly believe that it's possible that somebody in your life may need to hear this. And if you haven't already done so, I need you to subscribe to this channel. I need you to like this video. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.